Welcome back. We are waiting on key economic data this morning. The Federal Reserve's preferred read on inflation is out. That's the February PCE index out in about an hour. It's coming out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. Here are the expectations, up 0.3%, up 2.8%. Gasoline prices may rise above $4 across the U.S. over the summertime. Meanwhile, take a look at the national average right now at $3.53 a gallon. New Fox News polls finds 52% say they are financially worse off today compared to 4 years ago. 26% said that they are about the same. A separate Fox poll finds 61% of the people asked disapprove of Biden's performance on the economy. A full 65% said they disapprove of his handling of inflation. Joining me now is Florida Congressman Byron Donalds. He is a member of the House Oversight and Financial Services Committees. He's also a member of the House Freedom Caucus. Congressman, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here.
Good morning, Maria.
So tell us about
thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Give us your reaction to these polls. Obviously, we're waiting on another inflation indicator this morning with this PCE index out in about an hour's time. But we know what inflation has done to people, and we know that, once again, it's elevated, even as the Fed tries to reel it in.
This inflation has been awful for the American people, Maria. I mean, look, gasoline prices almost up 50% since Joe Biden took office. Food prices up 20%. Airline tickets up 31%. The list goes on and on. I was talking to one of my local shop owners. He owns a barbecue shop here in Southwest Florida. He told me last week the price of meat went up 10%. This is making it incredibly difficult for small business owners, middle-income Americans, working Americans, even poor Americans. I mean, look, if you're wealthy in our country, you can deal with the inflation. You'll find a way around it. But for working people in our country, it is a killer, and it's all because of Joe Biden and his reckless spending that he refuses to stop.
Yeah, well, I mean, the spending continues and the stimulus continues as we speak, Congressman, because the president wants to, forgive all of this student loan debt. I mean, that in and of itself is stimulus. So I don't think the president recognizes, or maybe he does and he's not saying it, that it's actually his policies allowing all of this spending that are stoking inflation.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care about the impacts of this. He and his administration, they're trying to buy votes. Let's just call it exactly what it is. That's what the student loan bailout is. Listen, 2/3 of the American people didn't even go to college. So you're asking 2/3 of the American people to pay for the loans of a third. And listen, I had student loans. I went to college. I was fortunate. I picked a major that was economically viable, so I was able to repay my loans. We have a lot of students who went to college. They went and had majors in fields that make it very hard to actually earn money in our economy. That is partly the fault of our colleges and universities. You got to stop putting kids in these majors when you know they're not going to be able to earn money in the real world. We got to stop that. But to then go and bail everybody out, that's not going to fix the matter. It's only going to make it worse.
Well, you make a good point because, in terms of buying votes, he wants young people to come out for his reelection. And so he's promising this student forgiveness. But there's more than that. You've got the New York Council asking the highest court there if they can redo laws that would allow illegals to vote. I mean, there are a lot of questions about some of the efforts around the open border and what it means for the census and what it might mean for the upcoming election. What are you doing to ensure a transparent and free election in November?
Well, the first thing, but one thing to be clear on this one, Maria, the federal government, we don't get involved in elections. We should not be involved in elections. That is something that states have to do. Unfortunately, New York has just lost their ever-loving mind. I don't know what they're doing in that state when it comes to the law, but it's going to be incumbent on other states to make sure that illegal aliens do not vote in our elections. If you or I were in Mexico, Maria, they wouldn't let us vote. That's just the bottom line. There's no reason why you should have illegal aliens voting in any election at all. But when it comes to the census, I'm going to tell you right now, we are going to make sure that there is no possible way that illegal aliens are going to be counted for the census, because you cannot assign congressional districts based upon just gross population. It has to be about the citizens in those jurisdictions, not just about the people that were let into those jurisdictions, because they do not have citizenship in this country. They do not get to vote in this country, so they should not be counted for the purposes of setting congressional districts.
Okay, well, that's what a lot of people are complaining that is actually happening. But let me turn to the Oversight Committee and your investigation. Chairman James Comer officially inviting President Biden to testify publicly on the family's business schemes. He wants this testimony on April 16th. In a letter, Comer says impeachment investigators have accounted for $24 million from foreign sources that was sent to either Joe Biden directly, his family, or their business associates. He added that the committee has identified no legitimate services to merit such lucrative payments. Congressman, has your committee heard back from the White House in terms of whether or not Joe Biden will answer questions on this influence peddling?
We've not heard back yet from the White House, but I will tell you, the last hearing we had with Tony Bobolinsky and Mr. Galanis, it demonstrated very clearly that Joe Biden had extended conversations with both men, that Joe Biden wanted to be aware of the people that were doing business with Hunter Biden and Jim Biden, and that they also wanted to make sure that Joe Biden had, quote unquote, plausible deniability. So, yes, he does have questions that he needs to answer. And furthermore, there are still the thousands and thousands of fictitious emails from when he was vice president of the United States that the National Archives has not released to the Oversight Committee. We're talking about with fictitious names like Robert L. Peters or Robin Ware that allegedly Joe Biden was using. The National Archives has these emails. The Oversight Committee needs to see these emails so we can finish our investigation.
Wow, I swear you can't even write this stuff. This is incredible. Meanwhile, what's going on with your majority that you're hanging on by a thread? Florida Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna joined me yesterday, and I was asking her why Wisconsin Congressman Mike Gallagher resigned the way that he did. You can't even hold a special election now to fill the seat before November's election. Luna suggested more GOP resignations could be coming. Watch this.
We had a Newsweek article come out with Ken Buck saying that others were going to resign, and we're also hearing that potentially 2 more may resign. We are really the only thing standing in between whatever's left in the Biden administration coming down the pipe to hurt the American people. And so what I am, again, is making those public calls to ask Representative Gallagher, please do not leave at your predicted time. Please resign now so that we can fill that.
What about that, Congressman? Is he basically saying, look, you screwed over Kevin McCarthy, and now I'm leaving and making sure you don't even have the majority?
Well, look, I haven't talked to Mike about this, but I'll tell you, no matter how he feels about what happened with Speaker McCarthy, this is not the solution. All you're going to do is empower the Democrats. So personally, to Mike, I would say, if you're going to leave, please leave now. Don't wait until we can't even fill your seat. It doesn't really make a lot of sense for the country and for the House of Representatives. Secondarily, look, every member makes a decision when they're going to leave. I don't know why Mike is doing what he's doing, but my hope is that it's focused on his family if he's making that decision. But if you're going to leave, please give your constituents an opportunity to fill that seat so they can have representation.
Well, what'd you make of the big party last night with 3 presidents at Radio City Music Hall while President Trump attended the wake of the fallen hero at the NYPD?
Look, presidents fundraise, but I think what was more disgusting is that Joe Biden had nothing to say about the fallen officer in New York City. He was in New York. He could have stopped by as well, but he didn't do it, had nothing to say. Corinne Jean-Pierre had nothing to say. I found that to be much more disgusting. Look, at the end of the day, our leadership has to empower law enforcement, not undermine them. And Joe Biden has undermined law enforcement the entire time he's been president, and that's why the country's in the shape that it's in.
All right, we will leave it there, Congressman. Thanks very much. Byron Donalds this morning in Florida.